It's mid-ranger time. Phone mid-rangers. It's a battle, and today we're looking at 4 mighty mid-range phones. Let's go. Hey, if any of these videos that you've seen on the channel helped you, please consider hitting us with that thumbs up, that subscribe, and ringing that notification bell so you can get the latest updates when we upload new content. Thank you for joining me for my corny theatrics, and thank you for sticking around despite them. I appreciate it. Now, this week, we're taking a look at, as you may have guessed from that intro, 4 mid-range phones, but let me qualify this first with this note. I think that a lot of times reviewers look at things that the average user looking for a budget phone isn't necessarily concerned with. Yes, benchmarks are good, but at the end of the day, user experience, camera quality, storage, and battery life compared against cost seem to be what's most important for many people. And most users haven't had $1,400 phones as their daily drivers, or across my Facebook feed, I rarely see people complain about the speed in which apps launch or how quickly they're able to move between the recent apps menu. I hear and see people talking about things like camera quality, ease of use, battery life, speaker volume, and removable storage. So I've taken these phones out, taken pictures with them under relatively extreme conditions to test their metal, put them in front of a sound meter, tested their battery life, and looked at things I think matter most to you. Before we begin, I just want to let you know that you can find in-depth reviews on each of these phones on this channel by checking out my playlist. We'll link to that in the description, or you can click the link up here. Now, let's begin with specs and user experience. The devices with the largest displays and least bezels are going to be Samsung's Galaxy A51 and TCL's 10 Pro. If you're into more compact devices, then the smaller screens belong to the iPhone SE and Moto G Stylus. Looking at all of the devices side by side, the 10 Pro and A51 look the brightest indoors, with the G Stylus coming in last when it comes to still images. And having looked at multiple images and videos, I'd have to give the win in the display department to Samsung's Galaxy A51, with the TCL 10 Pro a close second. That win, though, comes with a caveat. Audio can be just as important as image when it comes to multimedia. Watching movies, videos, anime, if you're very choosy when it comes to sound quality, the hands-down winner among all 4 of these phones is Motorola's Moto G Stylus. In addition to the bottom-firing speaker, it's the only device in this roundup, besides the iPhone SE 2020, which uses the front speaker grille as well, delivering an immersive multimedia experience the other 3 don't come close to. Watching and listening to Urbance and The Witcher, there were nuances in the audio tracks which I didn't pick up with the other phones. And to be honest, there were nuances I didn't pick up on with pricier phones. Motorola has done an excellent job with their stereo speakers on the G Stylus. For example, with The Witcher in this banquet hall scene, there's an echo that you get from being in a big hall, and that just does not come across with any phone except for the G Stylus. All of the hall nuances, from that echo to people across the room from the White Wolf calling out his friend Mousek's name, all sound very well layered, like any well-produced stereo image should. In other words, the folks across the room actually sound like they're across the room. So, overall display quality goes to the Galaxy A51, but if you're a cinephile and are going to be watching movies, anime, and more on your phone, I'd actually give the overall multimedia experience to the Moto G Stylus, with the caveat that the display does not get as bright as the A51. So, better sound, better brightness. What's more important to you? Now, immersive does not necessarily mean loudest. Using a decibel meter, I tested all 4 phones with an ambient room noise of 50 decibels. I had the AC and a box fan running in the background. All of the phones measured approximately 75 decibels listening to the trailer for Urbans. No loudness winner there, though the best sound from any of the devices, as I mentioned earlier, comes squarely from the Motorola Moto G Stylus. And what's a great mobile movie experience if the battery doesn't last through the entire flick or binge watching several? Though it has the most anemic battery, the iPhone SE 2020 has the best battery tech. It supports both rapid charging, which brings a dead phone back to life with 50% charge in 30 minutes with 18-watt charging, and it supports wireless charging. That's it though. In my tests, it lasted 12 and a half hours with 6 hours screen on time. The other 3 phones would go between 7.5 and 8.5 hours screen on time with 15 to 18% battery left after being off the charger for 12 hours. So you'll choose between a phone which will die a few hours shorter but charge faster, or phones which will last hours longer but charge slower. Only you can answer this one because it'll depend on the time you spend near a charger in your daily routine. No clear winner here because I'd call this one up to your lifestyle, as both options have their merits. Onboard storage, that's a big one for most people, especially when it comes to phones which don't have expandable storage. You don't want to be dumping photos and videos just so you can update your OS when the time comes, so my advice is to always buy the phone with the most storage you can afford out of the box. In this case, the 3 Android phones in this roundup all have expandable storage. The iPhone, of course, does not. So if we compared all 4 phones at their 128 gigabyte storage price points, the Android phones would be the winners here with the option of expandable micro SD storage. And now, the moment most of you have been waiting for, those cameras. Smartphone cameras have come a long way, and most of them will take pretty solid pictures in optimal natural lighting, so I won't deep dive into that. Thanks to machine learning, the playing field is currently even in that respect for the most part, but there are some areas where some manufacturers have advanced beyond others when it comes to their software-hardware combination. So, what I will take a look at is suboptimal conditions. Let's begin with how cameras handle blowing out an image with the areas of the image which are overexposed. In this image, you can see that the side of the building is overexposed. The sunlight is hitting it pretty hard, and when I turned the camera around and looked at front-facing cameras, you can see that the background is overexposed as well. 3 cameras, both front and rear, overexposed except for Samsung's A51. It handled those areas of the image on both front and back cameras better than its competition in this roundup. But let's not stop there. Let's look at the night shots with night mode. The only phone in the roundup which doesn't have night mode, but thanks to great software and machine learning, took some of the best night shots at my metro stop is the iPhone SE 2020. Even without the SE having a night mode, the only camera which took comparable shots was Samsung's Galaxy A51, which actually has a night mode. Here are the shots of the metro station and the pixel peeping into the blacks of the night sky to see who produces the most grain. Here's the Moto G Stylus, and you can see a decent amount of grain. Same with the iPhone SE, as well as with the TCL phone, you can see that. Here's the A51, and as you can see, this night sky is pretty solid. Only one camera, though, carried that night mode panache to the front-facing cameras, and that is the A51. Not that the low-light front-facing camera photos are stunning, but if taking pictures is your priority, then your best option here is the A51. There are some other photos I took of flowers, which the A51 wasn't the leader of the pack, but what I can say is that overall, in my testing, Samsung's Galaxy A51 was the most consistent across the competition, followed by the iPhone SE 2020. And I mean, it was really close. TCL just got into the camera game, so I'll give them more time to mature their software. But that's a credit to them that for this first phone out the gate, they actually got a pretty solid start. They've even rolled out software updates in the time I've had the phone, which have improved its experience. As a brief aside, many people use their smartphones to record family events, a child's baseball game or ballet recital, a school play or graduation, so I thought I'd test out the video stabilization of each phone by walking a couple flights of steps and seeing how they handled it. Again, the A51 came out on top and was the smoothest of the bunch, but coming up the steps, I did have some slight blurring because Samsung uses software to compensate for movement rather than mechanical optical image stabilization. Only the iPhone supports optical image stabilization in this roundup. And if you're a serious video shooter, I'd go with the iPhone as it supports more video formats than the A51. So, who is the winner of this competition of mid-range smartphones? The all-around best performer here, I'd have to say, is the Samsung Galaxy A51, though if you're an iPhone user, you already knew the outcome of this match before I began. Truth be told though, you really can't go wrong with any of these phones. A personal favorite of mine in this roundup actually is the Motorola for its functional Moto actions and other Moto UI enhancements, which are actually some of the most useful on the market, and Motorola wowed me with their speaker setup on this phone. And thank you to my people over at Verizon for getting me the Motorola Moto G Stylus for this roundup. I needed to include it because it is a strong performer. So, while my recommendation based on the testing I've done is the Galaxy A51 for most people, I'd have to say that from a consumer perspective, the phone to beat in this lineup is the one you get the best deal on. And if you want to learn about the best carrier deals for any of these phones, if you're considering picking up a new device, check out the website, reviews.org, where the researchers there, the writers, have done an amazing job of digging through all the fine print and everything you need to know to get the plan, the rate plan that's best for your budget. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'll get to them. I love interacting with you guys on YouTube. You've actually been a great, respectful, and quality bunch here. Not too many trolls. I'm Tshaka Armstrong, reviews.org. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.